Mr. President, the events this week in Nashville, Tennessee are still fresh in our minds. The thought that a shooter went on the campus of a Christian school, a school for children, little children. This person who went on that campus blasted her way into the building and then took the lives of 3 9-year-old children and 3 adults who were principal and teachers in the school. It is heartbreaking to think that we are reliving this scene over and over again, where our children who were sent by their loving parents off to school, lunches in hand, never came home. Never came home. We don't know all the details yet of the shooter or the weaponry which she owned at the time or used in the event. But we do know that there were weapons that we're very familiar with. One, of course, is the AR-15, the military assault-style weapon that has sadly become so popular in America. This morning's Washington Post had an editorial which touched me personally, and I wanted to share this morning on the floor. And I'll quote from it. The editorial board wrote, "These attacks are always heart-wrenching, but they're not surprising anymore. Neither the massacres themselves nor the weapons used to carry them out. 10 of the 17 deadliest mass killings in the United States since 2012 involve AR-15s. The names of the towns and cities where these tragedies took place have become all too familiar. Newtown, San Bernardino, Las Vegas, Parkland, Uvalde, and beyond." The Washington Post spells out the specific cities. Each year when these mass shootings took place with AR-15s and the number of people who were killed. I'm going to read the names of these communities into the record, as they should be. Las Vegas, Nevada, 2017. AR-15 weapon was used. 60 people were killed. Orlando Pulse, Florida, 2016. An MCX rifle, 49 people killed. Newtown, Connecticut, Sandy Hook Elementary School, 2012. The shooter had an AR-15. The shooter killed 27 people, including those beautiful little children. Sutherland Springs, Texas, 2017, another AR-15. 25 people killed, including a pregnant woman. Uvalde, Texas, 2022, another AR-15 military assault rifle. 21 people killed. Parkland, Florida, 2018, another AR-15 killing 17 people. San Bernardino, California, 2015, an AR-15 there killed 14 people. Aurora, Colorado, 2012, another AR-15 killed 12. Pittsburgh, 2018, AR-15 killed 11. Boulder, Colorado, 2021, an AR-15 killed 10. Buffalo, New York, 2022, an AR-15 killed 10. They cut the list off at 10 deaths in a mass shooting involving these military assault weapons. So they didn't include Highland Park, Illinois, but I want to make a record of that. 4th of July, 2022, an AR-15, 7 killed, dozens wounded, including an 8-year-old boy who will be paralyzed for life. These are the realities of the AR-15 as it is being used. It was designed to do just this, kill massive numbers of people, of human beings. 1 in 20 U.S. adults own at least one AR-15. Think of that. 1 out of every 20 Americans own at least one AR-15. That's roughly 16 million people storing roughly 20 million guns designed to mow down enemies on the battlefield with brutal efficiency. That is the reality the Washington Post reports. The rise in production of the AR-15 is stunning. AR-15s accounted for 1.2% of all manufactured guns in 1990. 1.2%. 23.4% of the guns produced in America in 2020. 30 years later, almost 1 out of every 4 guns produced in the United States is an AR-15 military assault rifle. The AR-15 is materially different than traditional handguns. The rifle fires very small bullets at very fast speeds. The projectiles don't move straight and smooth through human targets like those of a traditional handgun, our image of the bullet hole in a movie. Their velocity turns them unstable upon penetration, so that they tumble through flesh and vital organs. Mr. President, I thought long and hard about reading the next 2 or 3 sentences in the Washington Post editorial on the floor of the Senate. I'm not going to read them, because they spell out in a few words, but in graphic detail, what happens to the body of a child when it's struck by one of these military assault weapons. I can't bring myself to think that one of those parents might be listening to this Senate proceeding and have to relive the horror of the moment. But suffice it to say, what happens is devastating and horrible to any human body, but certainly to the body of a small child. Mr. President, think of Sutherland Springs, where the shooter, armed with the AR-556, the Ruger, fired off 450 military-grade bullets within minutes, killing 25 people, including a pregnant woman. Think of Dayton, where the gunman needed only 32 seconds to hit more than 24 people with 41 bullets. That's because he was equipped with a 100-round drum magazine. Even a 30-round magazine, which is now the industry standard today, would have forced him to reload at least once. A 15-round magazine would have forced him to reload twice. The Washington Post's analysis of the time that would have taken reveals that lives could have been saved, potentially 6 of the 9 who were killed because of the high-capacity magazine that was attached to the gun. There should be a ban on these high-capacity magazines. It is hard to imagine that you can listen to these numbers and the devastation of these weapons and imagine someone rationalizing that when our founding fathers sat down so long ago to write the Second Amendment, they envisioned what we are facing today in Nashville, Tennessee, in Highland Park, Illinois, and in 131 different instances of mass shooting so far this year. And only 93 days have passed in this, 94 in this calendar year. Over 131 mass shootings. And as I go through the list here of those that involving AR-15s, the numbers of casualties and deaths are astounding. And they should be shameful to this great nation. To think that the United States of America accepts this as part of our constitutional right, our constitutional responsibility to own a weapon, a mass killing weapon like the AR-15, that 1 out of 4, virtually 1 out of 4 of all guns manufactured in this country today are AR-15 weapons? Are we out of our minds to let this happen? To let children in Nashville, children in Connecticut, children be victimized, or anyone to be victimized by these at a 4th of July parade or wherever it happens to be? I listened to my colleagues yesterday. One of them brought this up in the Senate Judiciary Committee, challenging Secretary Mayorkas of the Department of Homeland Security as to whether he supported an assault weapon ban. He said he did. I do too. This senator then said to him, well, define an assault weapon for me. Well, it's an interesting challenge. We did define it when we banned assault weapons for a period of time and saw the number of mass shootings decline dramatically in our country. But of course, the producers of these weapons changed them just enough to be outside the definition. So there's no question that we're dealing with a moving definition, and we have to be open to the reality of it. But is this beyond us as a nation to define a weapon in a way that we can legitimately regulate it? Who should own an AR-15? I obviously would say the military, that's what they were designed for. Police, and they, in extraordinary situations, might need them. I can see that, some specialized law enforcement agencies. But why in the world does an individual American need an AR-15, particularly with a high-capacity magazine? It isn't for hunting, that's for certain. It's hardly for self-defense. It can't be much for sport. What is the rationale behind this? And then you look at the Supreme Court and the recent Bruin decision, you wonder, what are they thinking? What is going through the mind of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas as he is arguing that somehow the AR-15 military assault weapon that is killing so many Americans in groups was envisioned by the Founding Fathers when they wrote the Second Amendment? They were dealing with powdered wigs and flintlock rifles. They certainly had no idea what a high-capacity magazine could do to a large group of people, as we've seen so many times over and over. Well, what are we going to do about it? Obvious question. Senator, nice speech. What's next? Well, I'll tell you what's next. The American people are next. If they're fed up with the situation, as I am, and I know many are, they have to make it a condition when they come to vote for members of Congress. Currently, the House of Representatives is under control of the Republican Party. The likelihood that they'll consider any gun safety legislation is minimal. We now have a scant majority in the Senate, but not enough to break a filibuster over an issue. So we have limited opportunities. What it takes is a decision by the American people to put an end to this madness. And the people that they elect to the House and Senate, there have to be simple questions asked for people to understand where they're going to stand when issues of gun safety come before them. I will just tell you, Mr. President, that as chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, I'm sorry that we don't have the votes now to act. We need to do it, not just for the great people of this nation, but also for their children and grandchildren. I yield the floor.